Heavenly Stories.
In a quiet village, not far from the bustling town roads, lived two sisters, Mary and Martha. Their home was simple, humble, yet filled with life, love, and the aroma of freshly baked bread that Martha often prepared. Martha was the elder of the two, always attentive to the needs of the household. She prided herself on her efficiency, her ability to anticipate every requirement before it even arose. Guests could arrive at any moment, and Martha would have the meal ready, the house spotless, and every detail attended to. Mary, on the other hand, was different. She had a quiet spirit and a reflective mind. She found joy in sitting near the window, reading the sacred scrolls, listening to the teachings of their revered teacher, or simply watching the sunlight play across the garden. Where Martha moved with purpose and urgency, Mary moved with thoughtfulness and presence. One day, their teacher visited, as he often did, sharing lessons of faith and life with the villagers. His presence brought warmth, not just to the hearts of those around him but to the home of Mary and Martha. While Martha immediately rushed to prepare a meal for the teacher, Mary quietly sat near the teacher, absorbing every word, every story, every gentle instruction he offered. As the sisters prepared for the visit, Martha could not help but feel a rising frustration. "Mary," she whispered under her breath, "can't you help me? There's so much to do, and he'll be here any moment. The house must be ready." Mary looked up from her scroll, her eyes calm yet filled with understanding. "Martha," she replied softly, "I know the work is important. But so is being here with him, listening, learning, and opening our hearts. Isn't that why he comes?" Martha shook her head, her hands dusted with flour, her mind racing through the list of tasks yet to be completed. She loved her sister deeply, yet she often felt that Mary's contemplative nature slowed her down, distracted her from practical matters. Yet even in her frustration, Martha knew that there was a lesson in patience, a lesson she had sometimes overlooked. As the teacher entered, Martha welcomed him with warmth, showing him the neatness of the home, the prepared table, and the aroma of the food she had meticulously prepared. Mary, sitting quietly nearby, listened intently as the teacher spoke. She asked thoughtful questions, not in a way that interrupted but in a way that deepened the discussion for everyone present. Martha observed her sister with a mix of admiration and irritation. How could someone so still, so seemingly inactive, draw so much attention from the teacher? But as the minutes passed, Martha began to notice something she hadn't before. The teacher responded to Mary's questions with care, his eyes softening, his voice gentle. There was a connection, a depth in Mary's attentiveness that Martha's busyness could not touch. After the visit, the sisters sat together in the quiet of their home. Martha's mind was still buzzing with tasks left unfinished, while Mary's heart was full of the teachings they had just received. Martha finally sighed, a sound of exhaustion mixed with contemplation. "I don't know," she admitted softly, "how you can sit so still and yet learn so much. I feel like I'm running in circles, and you seem to be getting everything that matters." Mary reached out and took her sister's hand gently. "Martha, we each have our gifts. Yours is to serve, to act, to provide. Mine is to listen, to reflect, to seek understanding. Both are important. Maybe the challenge is to learn from each other, to find a balance between doing and being." Martha pondered this in silence, feeling the weight of her constant busyness and the gentle wisdom in Mary's words. Perhaps, she thought, life was not about completing every task perfectly, but about knowing when to act and when to pause. Perhaps the true art of living was in that balance, in the harmony between service and contemplation, action and reflection. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the room in golden light, Martha began to understand that the path to a fulfilled life was not simply in doing more but in discerning what truly mattered. That evening, a quiet seed of reflection took root in her heart, a lesson that would guide her in the days to come. The next morning, the village was alive with activity. Birds chirped from the rooftops, and the aroma of fresh bread wafted from the oven, mingling with the scent of blooming flowers in the garden. Martha was already up, bustling around the kitchen, preparing breakfast for herself, Mary, and anyone else who might stop by. Her hands moved quickly, arranging plates and utensils, chopping vegetables, and stirring soups. She felt a sense of purpose in her actions, a drive that came from wanting everything in its right place. Mary, meanwhile, walked slowly through the garden, her fingers brushing against the petals of the flowers. She stopped at a small patch of herbs, inhaling their fragrant scent, and thought about the lesson from the teacher yesterday. His words lingered in her mind: balance comes not from doing everything, but from knowing what deserves your heart and attention. She smiled softly, thinking of Martha, who was always moving, always working, always trying to make everything perfect. As Mary stepped inside, the aroma of breakfast greeted her, and she saw Martha moving from counter to counter, humming softly but with a furrowed brow. "Good morning, Mary," Martha said, trying to hide her worry behind a smile. "I just hope everything turns out right today. I've got so much to do, and I don't want anything to go wrong." Mary leaned against the doorframe, her eyes calm. "Martha," she said gently, "sometimes things going perfectly isn't the point. It's the love behind what you do that matters most." Martha paused, spoon in hand, and looked at her sister. I know," she admitted, a hint of frustration in her voice. "But if everything's messy or late, won't people think I didn't care? I can't just stop. I have to do it right." Mary stepped closer, placing a hand on Martha's shoulder. "Doing it right isn't only about speed or cleanliness. It's about heart, about presence. Sometimes the best service comes when you pause, even if just for a moment, to listen, to connect, to breathe." Martha looked down at her hands, worn from the constant work. She knew Mary was right, yet she felt restless. The to-do list in her mind seemed endless, and the idea of slowing down felt almost impossible. Yet, as she watched Mary gently adjust a small vase on the windowsill, she felt a subtle reminder of yesterday's lesson: the power of quiet presence. The day unfolded with unexpected interruptions. Neighbors stopped by, children ran through the garden, and the teacher's voice echoed in Mary's thoughts. Martha found herself torn between maintaining order and joining in the conversations, listening and serving. She realized how exhausting it was to try to control everything and noticed that the warmth in the room came more from connection than perfection. At midday, the sisters finally sat down to rest. Martha's hands were tired, her mind still buzzing with tasks undone. Mary poured them both a cup of tea and smiled. "Martha," she said softly, "see how the people around us are laughing, talking, and enjoying themselves. It's not because everything's perfect. It's because we're here, together, with open hearts." Martha sighed, a long, deep exhale that carried both exhaustion and relief. "I see that now," she admitted. "Maybe I've been so focused on doing everything that I forgot why I'm doing it in the first place. Maybe it's not about the tasks, but about the love we put into them, and the moments we share." Mary nodded, her eyes bright with understanding. "Yes. Love and presence matter more than perfection. Balance isn't about doing less or more, it's about knowing when to act and when to pause, when to serve and when to listen. Life flows best when we honor both." The sisters sat together, sipping tea in the gentle afternoon light, letting the lessons of the day sink deep into their hearts. Martha felt a new sense of clarity, a quiet understanding that her work was meaningful not because it was flawless, but because it was done with care and love. And Mary, ever reflective, felt grateful for the gentle reminder that balance was a gift they could share, not only with each other but with everyone whose lives they touched. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the village, Martha began to notice the harmony in the day, the rhythm of work, rest, and presence, and for the first time, she felt the quiet peace of understanding that life's true fulfillment came from the delicate balance between action and heart. The following day brought a new kind of challenge. The village had organized a gathering to discuss matters of faith and community, and Mary and Martha had been asked to host. Martha immediately felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She began planning in her mind, who would sit where, what food to prepare, how the house should look. Every detail mattered, every task seemed urgent. Mary, however, approached the event differently. She quietly considered the purpose of the gathering, to share wisdom, to learn from one another, and to connect hearts. While Martha measured cups and polished utensils, Mary thought about how she could help others feel welcome, how she could listen attentively to the stories of those who came, and how she could encourage thoughtful conversation. As guests began to arrive, Martha moved swiftly, greeting each person, making sure everything was perfect. She guided them to their seats, offered food and drink, and kept a watchful eye on the household, anxious that nothing go wrong. Her energy was impressive, but it carried a hint of strain, a tightness in her expression that she could not hide. Mary, in contrast, greeted guests with a gentle warmth, asking questions and listening deeply. She noticed the subtle concerns of those around her, a weary traveler, a shy child, a worried parent, and offered small acts of comfort. Her presence seemed to calm the room, drawing smiles and nods, and she realized that the heart of hospitality was not in perfection, but in attention and care. Martha watched her sister and felt a mix of admiration and unease. How could Mary, doing so little in the way of preparation, create such a welcoming atmosphere? The house was filled with laughter, meaningful conversation, and a sense of ease that Martha had not anticipated. She began to understand, slowly, that her own busyness, while important, was only one aspect of hosting. The human connection, the thoughtful listening, the shared moments, these were the true measures of success. During a lull in the gathering, Martha found herself sitting across from Mary. "I don't understand," she admitted, her voice quiet. "I've worked so hard to make everything perfect, yet it feels like people are responding more to you than me. How is that possible?" Mary smiled softly, her eyes full of compassion. "Martha, it's not about who does more or less. It's about the heart behind what you do. You care for the details, and that is a gift. But the way you engage with people, your attentiveness, your presence, that's where the true impact lies. Sometimes, we forget that what people remember most is not perfection, but the way they feel in our presence." Martha considered this, her mind slowly connecting the pieces of what she had been learning. She realized that her drive for order and efficiency, while valuable, could overshadow the most important part of service, the human connection. She had been so focused on doing everything right that she had missed the moments that truly mattered. As the evening unfolded, Martha began to shift her approach. She stepped back from the constant oversight and allowed herself to engage with the guests in a more meaningful way. She laughed with the children, shared stories with the elders, and listened to the concerns of her neighbors. To her surprise, she felt lighter, more joyful, and more fulfilled than she had in weeks. Mary watched with quiet satisfaction, recognizing the change in her sister. "Balance," she said softly, "isn't something we achieve once and then forget. It's a daily practice, a choice we make in each moment to honor both our work and our hearts." By the end of the gathering, the house was filled with warmth, gratitude, and a sense of shared purpose. Martha felt a deep sense of accomplishment, not because every task had been flawless, but because she had learned to act with both care and presence. She realized that service without love and mindfulness was incomplete, and that reflection without action was equally hollow. True fulfillment, she understood, lay in the delicate dance between the two. As the guests departed and the quiet of night returned, Martha and Mary sat together, savoring the calm. Martha placed a hand on Mary's shoulder. "I think I'm beginning to understand," she said. "It's not about doing everything or doing nothing. It's about doing what matters, with love and attention." Mary nodded, a gentle smile spreading across her face. "Exactly, Martha. And each day gives us another chance to practice, to grow, and to find that balance." And in that shared understanding, the sisters found a new rhythm, a rhythm that would guide them in the days to come, blending action with reflection, service with presence, and work with love. The following week brought another moment of reflection and growth for the sisters. Martha woke early, as usual, her mind already racing through the day's tasks. The sun had barely risen, but she was determined to prepare for a visit from a group of travelers who had journeyed from a distant village. The thought of their arrival filled her with both excitement and anxiety. She wanted everything to be perfect, the food, the house, even the smallest details, like freshly swept floors and neatly arranged cushions. Mary, however, rose slowly, savoring the calm of the morning. She tended to the garden, carefully watering the plants and noticing the small details of life that often went unseen, the pattern of the leaves, the chirping of the birds, the gentle rustle of the wind. She paused to reflect on the previous day's lessons, considering how she could support Martha not just in action, but in perspective. When the travelers arrived, Martha immediately sprang into motion. She guided them through the home, offering food and drink, explaining the layout of the house, and ensuring that every need was met. Her energy was impressive, her attention to detail flawless. Yet, beneath her confident exterior, she felt the familiar tension pressing against her chest. The room was lively, filled with laughter and conversation, but she noticed a subtle restlessness within herself, a longing for something more than constant motion. Mary, as always, approached the situation differently. She greeted the travelers with warmth and curiosity, asking about their journeys and listening intently to their stories. She noticed the fatigue in one traveler's eyes and offered comfort, observed the shy smiles of children and encouraged them gently, and shared thoughtful words with the elders who had traveled far. Her presence was quiet yet powerful, creating an atmosphere of peace and connection. As the afternoon wore on, Martha began to feel the strain of her endless tasks. She caught herself rushing from one chore to another, her mind split between the practical demands of hospitality and the desire to truly connect with her guests. Observing Mary, she saw how her sister's calm attention drew people in, how conversations lingered, how smiles were genuine and unhurried. Martha felt a mix of admiration and curiosity, wondering how she might cultivate the same presence while still fulfilling her responsibilities. During a brief pause, Martha approached Mary, who was gently speaking with a traveler about the lessons they had learned from their journeys. "Mary," Martha began hesitantly, "I see how people respond to you. You have this calm way about you, and they seem to feel it. How do you do that, when there's so much to take care of?" Mary looked up, her expression soft and encouraging. "Martha, it's not about doing less or ignoring responsibilities. It's about being fully present in each moment, whether you're serving food or listening to a story. The key is balance, recognizing what truly matters right now and giving your heart to it." Martha considered this, feeling the tension within her begin to ease. She realized that her drive for perfection, while noble, often pulled her away from the moments that mattered most. She had been so focused on tasks that she had overlooked the beauty of connection, the joy of simply being with others, fully and attentively. By evening, as the travelers prepared to leave, Martha noticed something remarkable. Despite her initial anxiety about every detail, the atmosphere had been filled with warmth, gratitude, and genuine engagement. It wasn't her meticulous planning alone that had created this harmony, it was the combination of her efforts and Mary's mindful presence. She understood, perhaps for the first time, that service and contemplation could complement each other beautifully. As the door closed behind the departing travelers, Martha and Mary sat together, the quiet of the evening settling around them. Martha took a deep breath, feeling both tired and content. "I think I'm beginning to see," she said softly, "that balance isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about knowing where to put your heart and when to pause." Mary smiled, reaching out to squeeze her sister's hand. "Exactly, Martha. Life isn't about endless tasks or constant stillness. It's about moving with purpose, pausing with presence, and giving love to each moment. When we find that balance, everything else falls into place." And so, in the warmth of their home, as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the sisters embraced the quiet lesson of the day. They understood that life's true richness was not measured by what they did, but by how they chose to be, attentive, loving, and balanced in all things. The evening sun cast a warm glow across the village, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber. Mary and Martha were sitting together in their home, the day's busyness finally settling into a gentle quiet. Martha had spent hours preparing a meal for a few friends who had come to visit, her hands tired and her mind crowded with the tasks she had completed. She leaned back against the counter, letting out a soft sigh, and glanced at Mary, who was seated by the window, her eyes fixed on the fading light, holding a small scroll with the teacher's words gently echoing in her mind. Martha felt the familiar tug of frustration. She loved her sister dearly, yet she often felt irritated by Mary's calm, reflective demeanor, which seemed so at odds with her own restless energy. "Mary," she said softly, trying not to sound accusatory, "don't you think you should help me? There's so much to do before our friends arrive." Mary turned her gaze slowly, meeting her sister's eyes with a gentle, steady look. "Martha," she replied softly, "I understand that there's work to be done. But sometimes, it's more important to pause, to listen, to be present. Don't you want to hear what the teacher said today? It was about focusing on the heart, on what truly matters." Martha's hands clenched slightly on the edge of the counter. She wanted to argue, to insist that practical duties were just as important as spiritual attention. Yet deep down, she knew Mary's words held truth. How often had she felt restless even after finishing every task? How often had she missed quiet, meaningful moments that nourished the soul? The sisters sat in silence for a long moment, listening to the gentle sounds of the village settling into evening. Martha exhaled, her shoulders loosening. "I suppose I get so caught up in what needs to be done that I forget to just be," she admitted. Mary smiled, her eyes bright with compassion. "We all need reminders, Martha. God calls us to serve, yes, but also to be still, to listen, and to love without distraction. Balance isn't about doing everything perfectly, it's about knowing where your attention and heart are needed most." Later, as the friends arrived, Martha noticed something she hadn't before. While she had been worrying over every detail, the warmth in the room came not from the perfectly arranged meal or polished floors, but from the presence of everyone gathered together. Mary engaged with each guest, listening with care, asking questions, and responding with thoughtful attention. Martha realized that true hospitality, true service, wasn't measured by tasks alone, it was measured by love and presence. After the visitors departed, the sisters sat together once more, this time in shared quiet. Martha felt a lightness she hadn't felt in a long time, a softening of the constant tension that often gripped her. "I think I understand now," she whispered, "it's not about doing more, but about doing what truly matters, with love and attention." Mary reached across the small table, taking her sister's hand. "Yes, Martha. Balance, between action and contemplation, service and reflection, is what brings peace. We may not always get it right, but every moment gives us a chance to learn, to grow, and to love better." As they gazed at the first stars appearing in the sky, Martha felt gratitude, for her sister, for the lessons they were learning together, and for the gentle reminders life placed before them. She understood, finally, that the heart of faith and service wasn't in endless activity or passive contemplation alone, but in the delicate dance between the two, in moving and pausing with intention, love, and awareness. And with that understanding, Martha rested, her spirit lighter, her mind clearer, and her heart open. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tasks, and new moments to choose balance, but for now, she embraced the peace of the present, the gift of presence, and the quiet joy of learning to walk alongside Mary in love and understanding. The morning light filtered softly through the windows, casting a warm glow over the sisters' home. Martha woke early, as she often did, but this time her heart felt lighter. The lessons of the past days lingered with her, a gentle rhythm guiding her thoughts and actions. She moved with purpose, yet without the frantic energy that usually accompanied her tasks. There was a new awareness within her, a recognition that balance was not an endpoint, but a journey, a practice to be nurtured each day. Mary was already awake, tending to the small garden outside. She paused to breathe in the morning air, feeling the calm of the moment and reflecting on the teacher's words, "True service comes from the heart, and true presence is the gift of attention." Both are necessary for a life of meaning. She smiled as she thought of Martha, whose heart was beginning to embrace this understanding, even amid the busyness that defined her nature. As the day unfolded, the sisters found themselves working side by side, each complementing the other. Martha prepared food with care, mindful not to let the tasks consume her entirely, while Mary engaged guests and friends with warmth and attentiveness. They discovered that when action was paired with reflection, when service was guided by presence, a remarkable harmony emerged. A traveler came to their home that afternoon, weary from a long journey. Martha welcomed him with the usual diligence, offering food and making sure everything was comfortable, but she noticed something new. She was not rushing, not fretting over small details, and she felt the presence of her own heart in the work. Mary guided the conversation gently, listening to the traveler's stories, asking thoughtful questions, and offering encouragement. Together, the sisters created an atmosphere of true hospitality, one born from love, attention, and balance. As the day drew to a close, Martha reflected on all she had learned. She realized that her desire for control and perfection, though well-intentioned, had sometimes obscured the very purpose of her efforts. True service was not measured by flawless execution but by the love, presence, and care infused into every action. She understood now that moments of pause, reflection, and attentiveness were not wasted, they were the heart of living fully. Mary noticed the quiet transformation in her sister and reached out, taking Martha's hand in hers. "Balance isn't a destination, Martha," she said softly. "It's a journey we take every day. Some days we will focus more on doing, and other days more on being. What matters is that we walk it together, learning and growing as we go." Martha nodded, a serene smile spreading across her face. "I see that now. Life isn't about choosing one over the other. It's about embracing both, about giving attention to what matters, whether it's action or contemplation. And with each choice, we grow stronger, wiser, and more loving." That evening, the sisters sat by the window, watching the stars appear in the sky. The village had quieted, and the gentle night breeze carried a sense of peace through their home. Martha felt a deep gratitude, for her sister, for the teacher's wisdom, and for the small, steady lessons life provided each day. She realized that the true measure of faith, love, and service was not found in endless activity or idle reflection alone, but in the delicate balance between the two. Together, Mary and Martha understood that the heart of life's purpose was connection, with God, with others, and with oneself. They knew there would be challenges, moments of struggle, and times when balance might feel elusive. Yet, armed with patience, love, and the lessons they shared, they felt ready to face each day with grace. And so, in the quiet of their home, the sisters embraced the journey of life, moving with intention, pausing with awareness, and giving their hearts fully to each moment. In the delicate dance between action and contemplation, they discovered the profound truth, that a life lived with balance, love, and presence was the most beautiful gift of all.